Peace to the planet and Ramadan Mubarak. It is a of the Bishop chilling. It's Ramadan, right? And I have a special guest on. I'm so hyped because I met him so long ago, pre-pandeezy even. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Pre-pandemic. That's when you know that's like a great marker for friendship. What do you mean before or after the pandemic? Um,
Yes.
Sheikh Jamal Dewan from San Diego, live and direct. Now we met at Zaytuna. What year was it?
I don't know.
It was
Maybe 17,
2017 or
18.
18. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
2017, 18. And your son was in one of my grappling classes, I think, while you were up there visiting. I don't even remember what the event was, but I remember it was a
I think
celebratory
my
event.
wife was teaching.
Oh, is that what it
I think
was?
my wife was teaching at the whatever the Rihla. I
Yeah,
think it was when
yeah,
they had
yeah.
the Rihla at Zaytuna that
Yeah.
one year.
And it was like so fun, and we clicked like immediately, and we always just kind of stayed in touch. And I was always like, and he knows a lot about hip hop, y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like his scholarship is on point, but don't think that he don't know the beats and the breaks. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so we've always been really cool. Um, we've always mutually appreciated each other. He's incredibly wise. Like you studied in Egypt, you've traveled a lot, and I admire you a lot. A lot of the videos that you post are really, they're not just like inspirational, they're like genuinely insightful without being preachy. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And
mm,
I
mm,
really appreciate you for that. Because I think to have the wisdom is one thing, and it's something that's always going to be admirable, but to be able to share it in a way that the average everyday Muslim can engage, appreciate, and build upon, I think that is a totally separate skill, you know. So
mm.
I've always appreciated so much of your work. Can you just kind of break down for those that don't know you and are unfamiliar and talk about the magic? Let's just kind of talk about like how did you end up in San Diego? Talk about the community there and the kind of things that you do there with your wife.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Bismillah. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Thank you for having me, Adisa. It's really a pleasure. Alhamdulillah. Glad we're able to finally get this moving. Alhamdulillah. Um, yeah, so actually we move a lot, so I don't blame you
Mm.
for this. We moved the last year actually. Maybe like mid last year. Or
Okay.
no, actually no, that's not accurate. But it doesn't matter. The point is that we're not exactly in San Diego anymore.
Where'd you
We're
go?
back in like OC, Riverside, Corona area.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I remember before you started to make that pivot, you
Yeah.
told me, and it never really clicked because I just
Yeah.
associate you.
Yeah. But it's related to what your question was because we had started this organization, my wife and I, called the Medjlis. Really, I mean, like the easiest way to explain it was that we had always seen from righteous people, from scholarly people, a certain like way that they take care of their guests. We would
Mm,
always see this from people when you go and visit them in their homes. See that like they understand really carefully how to take care of someone, how to treat them, how to honor them. And we basically wanted a public living room
mm.
where my wife and I, and eventually other teachers, now we have other teachers there as well, could kind of like welcome anyone into this space and be able to treat them like, okay, the 80 people who come on Sunday night, that's as if all of you are sitting in our living room.
Wow.
So you're gonna sit here, you're gonna be comfortable, we're gonna talk, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna feed you. Um, and so alhamdulillah, we've been building that since 2017. It was really starting to grow pre-pandemic.
So you
And
guys have a
then
straight 10-year run.
close, yeah, we're close to 10 years,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
That is
So
beautiful. Congratulations.
alhamdulillah, thank you. Yeah. So, it grew for the pandemic and then largely in Orange County.
Right.
That's where we had done a lot of our work since we came back from Egypt. And then during the pandemic, we moved to San Diego. So we were there for 4 years. And my wife is from San Diego. Like she grew up
Okay.
there. And
Okay.
we met there when we were both undergrads at UCSD. So it was like San Diego's home too. So when
Yeah.
we moved to San Diego, we started like a second branch in San Diego. And we would
Okay.
go between the two. But at some point we kind of felt like we're gonna keep the San Diego thing going. Alhamdulillah, it's still going, but still the core of the work is kind of in Orange County. So we moved back up here. and just alhamdulillah trying to do that. Now we have regular programs every week. My wife teaches every week. Sheikh Fouad and Gohedi teaches every week. I teach every week. I do San Diego once a week. We also have like an online Islamic studies program now that's self-paced. We also have a 5-year full like seminary program that we launched this year. So those are the kind
Wow.
of things that we're
That is
doing,
cool, man. That is very impressive. What kind of stuff are you teaching? Like if someone's in the area or they want to visit, what kind of things have you been teaching recently?
Usually Sunday is kind of like the main day. When the during the week stuff is still fine, but Sunday is kind of the more communal day because we'll have the lesson and then we'll have dinner.
Okay. Yeah.
And our internal team, mashallah, they make dinner for everyone every week, and it's really great. But usually Sunday's usually something spiritual related,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's usually the most easily and broadly applicable to everyone.
No, totally. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Now, it's funny because every time I talk to you, I have so much that I want to talk to you about because there are so many different things that I think when I think about you, and then there are different things like I know you got hoop skills, I know you got hip hop knowledge, I know you got all this other stuff, plus the sacred science.
Take it.
But
You're the point guard. Take it where you want it to go. We go with you.
But like, I've been thinking about two things. First, I want to talk about Stoicism and Islam and where they intersect philosophically. And then the other thing I wanted to talk with you about was futua, right? The prophetic sports, specifically kind of like grappling. And then for those Muslims that do jujitsu, that do wrestle, the best spiritual things they can be looking at. Um, while we kind of talk about maybe some of the best physical practices to not overexhaust themselves, etc. So as far as stoicism goes, um,
Mm.
I converted to Islam in 1990. I was
Wow.
right before I turned 21. I'm 56 now. Okay.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Man, you look good.
You know what I'm
You look
saying?
good.
I'm just trying to, you know what I'm saying? I can't lie though. It's really like my parents' genes and Islam
Yeah.
because and I'm telling because people, like I think sometimes when people see you, and I mean anybody, right? When people see them, they go, "Oh, oh, that guy's a jujitsu guy, super healthy." They don't really think about all the years you weren't healthy. They don't really think about all
Mm.
the years you didn't live the way you're living now. So just to be super serious, because all of my blood family and people who knew me before Islam know, I grew up very small, and because I grew up very small, like I weighed 100 pounds when I got out of high school. 100 on the
Ooh.
dot. And that was my job. I was like, I am the 98-pound weakling in the comic. So let me try to gain
Wow.
2 pounds so I can and bench my own weight. That was my goal at 18,
Wow.
to be 100 pounds actually and be able to bench my own weight. And so that I'm so old that I existed before Costco. Okay, that's another marker. Did you live in America before Costco? I did,
Yeah.
and I remember they used to have these 8-pound bags of pancake mix. Okay. So that summer, my junior year of high school, I got an 8-pound bag of pancake mix and I was eating all kinds of pork because I was like, it'll make you fat. So I was eating Jimmy Dean sausage, bacon, like so much, right? Because I was like, I just want to gain weight and keep it, right? And then during high school, I was drinking like a lot. So like I know when I came into Islam, um, I had already stopped drinking. I stopped drinking in high school. I was drinking before high school. So by the time I stopped drinking, it was a really good thing for me. But
Mm.
then as I started reading Black history after reading Malcolm X, I was like, oh man, I was like, all this pork we're eating in Black America is really just like leftover slave food. Now, I am sure that the descendants of Jews that were in the Holocaust during that time, they wouldn't eat what the Nazis would give them. So why would I eat what the slave masters gave my ancestors? Like, I'm just not doing it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then I came into Islam later, but I had already stopped eating pork just on that. But I think a lot of the way that I function now, a lot of the way that I live now, the expansion of my health is specifically due to converting to Islam because it made me eat more consciously. And in that consciousness, I got into grappling. And then there's like the Gracie diet and everything that came from that.
Right,
So, you know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying? I think like, I say this because I want people to know that however I'm functioning right now, it is simply a byproduct of my choices. You know what I mean? I chose to come into Islam. I chose to do jujitsu, and then by the grace of God, it's helped me in ways because
Mm,
I don't think if I ate the way I ate and drank the way I used to drink, I'm not even sure I'd be alive right now, and I'm not even being like silly about that. I'm not sure I'd
no,
be alive.
yeah, yeah,
So let's talk about
100%.
stoicism. In Stoicism, the virtues, the cardinal virtues in Stoicism are wisdom, justice, uh, temperance, and courage, right? And so I kind of wanted to talk about, I think a lot of people don't know how much the Muslims had a hand in Greek philosophy, even remaining in Europe, because it wouldn't have made it without the Muslims. Can you talk a little bit about what you know in that regards to that part of history or anything?
Yeah, I mean, basically, just what you said. The Muslims were at the same time that the Europeans were kind of going through what they were going through, let's say, the Muslim civilization was on its way up. And so at that time is when, as the one of the things that the Muslims did in general, which is a really fascinating thing to think about, is that you have this community that's born in Arabia, very desert, kind of like simple people. And very quickly they expand into up against a number of major civilizations, the Byzantines, the Chinese, the
Hmm.
Indians, the
Hmm.
Persians,
Hmm.
all of them long-standing, the Egyptians, but that's kind of like, East
Right.
Africa as well. So all of these are like, they come into all these places and they have this kind of confidence and that they're like, we know who we are and we're going to engage with these other traditions. And where there's wisdom, there's wisdom. We take it. And so
Right.
part of
They
that meant
admired it.
that,
They didn't. They
yeah,
didn't. They didn't frown on it or push it aside.
right. So part of that meant that when we come up to the wisdom of the Greeks and the whatever's there in the European civilization at that
Romans,
time,
right?
Byzantine civilization, like we're gonna use it. So they translated it into Arabic, they wrote commentaries on it, they memorized it, they incorporated it wherever they felt it would be useful. One of the actually really clear signs of that is what you're talking about right now, because this kind of like four-part breakdown of the virtues is very central to a lot of the works on Muslim spirituality.
Totally.
So they say
Yeah.
that the human soul is comprised of these four capacities that you mentioned, that there's wisdom, there's courage, there's temperance, and there's what was it,
Justice.
justice?
Justice. Yeah.
Justice, yeah. And so justice is like knowledge when you put it in the right place.
Hmm.
And temperance is kind of like a sort of restraint when you put it in the right place. And courage is anger when you put it in the right place, right? And that when you put all those things in the right place, then you get wisdom.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they all talk about that. Ghazali talks about that. Hakim at-Tirmidhi talks about that. Many of the major figures of Islamic spirituality, they use the same framework.
Yeah, no, it's really profound. And so, for me, when I came into learning about Stoic philosophy, because I had read a lot of Socrates' work and I had read a lot of pre-Socratic work, I mean, like literally decades before, like 20, 30 years prior. But uh I started reading Stoicism probably around 2018, right? 2019. And it kind of like reignited all of the previous Stoic stuff, the pre-Socratic
Yeah.
stuff, Aristotle and things like that, and Plato that I read a lot of. Um,
I feel
with
like I remember when you started to get like
Yeah, I started to get
really
into
into the
it.
Stoic stuff.
But it was really interesting because oddly, and even still, I still get a lot of pushback from Muslims because I love Stoicism so much, right? Like this guy hit me recently. He's like, "Yo, man, you got to watch out for Andrew Tate and all of the Stoic people because what they doing is really insidious and blah blah blah." And I was kind of like, Well, I mean, first of all, anybody can be insidious. There's like insidious Muslims in different parts of the world at different times. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like
Yeah.
nobody has a patent on being insidious, but like the thing was is like there's nothing about what I do with Stoicism that's an insidious edge. Like, why are you even bringing this to me? You know what I'm saying? That's weird.
Right.
But my
Right.
thing is that I think that in like the problem I don't think is stoicism. I think the problem is the modern stoic, right? You do have a lot of like what we'll call like red pill and authentic like white supremacy under vibes that pop up in a lot of people that call themselves stoics. And a lot
Mm,
of times these people will say that they are stoics, but
mm,
where do you see them expressing authentic wisdom, not a bigoted
mm.
opinion? Where do you see them standing up for justice, not talking about we need to shut down borders and the reason why the president's awesome is right? What? Right? You can't acknowledge a genocide, but you say that you have justice in you. You can't be courageous and speak against, you know what I'm saying? Like a clearly unlawful act
Yeah.
by an unjust government. So, I think that there has been kind of a white supremacy under vibe in what we see in a lot of modern stoicism that is not stoicism. Just
Mm,
like in a lot of the ways that we might see, like talk about, and so many people have mentioned like toxic masculinity, right? Rather than just acknowledging that's not masculinity. It's not toxic masculinity, it's
uh-huh.
not masculinity in itself, right? And so I have always appreciated that so many different ideas that I found in Stoicism came from Islam, but I also recognize that I am not an imam, I am not an emir, I am not a sheikh, I have not traveled, I haven't gone to Tarim, I haven't been to Morocco and studied under anybody. I'm just an African American Muslim, so I don't feel qualified to have these deep conversations when I know that's not, you know,
Mm,
what my
mm.
I consider myself to be a very off the shelf Muslim. Like you're like a five pillar Muslim, please, with no extra cheese. You know what I'm saying? But I think that
Yeah,
like,
that's all you have to be.
to what degree do you think I saw
Mm,
Faridun gave a talk on Rumi a while ago and I was looking at it on YouTube. And he said, Rumi didn't hate philosophy. He just didn't like philosophy without faith.
mm.
Can you kind of speak to like the limits of
Yeah.
rational thinking a bit?
Yeah, I think this is an amazing point because one of the things I think about a lot is that when it comes to general concepts, and there might be general concepts or things that we can kind of rationally come to that people can agree to and they can kind of understand the value and the virtue of them, to say, for example, some sort of temperance, some sort of justice, some sort of courage, some sort of mercy, some sort of magnanimity, and how we deal with people, all these kind of things, people can understand them. The question is, what does it actually look like?
Mm,
And I think that this is really the wisdom of prophecy. This is one of the wisdoms of prophecy, which is, you know, Allah, we're using this language, not trying to
right, right,
like leave out anyone. I mean, we'll just say God. God,
right.
God sent messengers for a reason. It was perfectly possible. Actually, in our tradition, we believe that it's far more common that God sent a messenger than that God sent a messenger and a scripture.
Mm,
So the scripture is far more rare. We
right,
have the scrolls of Abraham, you have the Psalms of David, you have the
right.
Torah with Moses, you have the
Yeah,
Gospel with Jesus, you have the Quran with the that's the scripture. But we believe that there's at least 120,000 prophets that were sent.
that's so deep. And people never
So
think about that. They don't
so
do, but
so
I know.
yeah, you know what I mean? So like if it was just a matter of here's the idea, get in line with the idea, then it would have been 120,000 scriptures sent with like five prophets.
Right? From
But
how many
but
languages?
yeah, so but the point is you need to see the lived example of what that message is supposed to be. And
Mm,
that's what you get from the prophet.
mm,
And in our tradition, of course, we believe that that's what you get from like the righteous heirs of the prophet, the knowledge of the prophets is that they show a person. okay, great, we have all these ideas. How do you operationalize them into a lived reality in the world around you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's like taking it beyond the theory now. And then, yeah, everyone can pontificate about whatever concept in Stoicism or this or that, but it doesn't
Right.
mean that they're congruent in their in the way that they live. And so the lived practice is really what it comes down to in the end.
Exactly. No, 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 exactly. No, I think that's huge. And moving into the Ramadan discussion, one of the things that I liked about Stoic philosophy is this idea of voluntary hardship, right? As a practice. And I think that a lot of people that do study Stoicism, where they fail themselves and why a lot of people or how a lot of people who pretend to teach Stoicism fail, the people who listen to them, is that they will quote Stoic philosophers, but not teach the practices of Stoic philosophy.
Mm,
Right? So they'll say Marcus Aurelius said, Seneca said, Epictetus taught, right? But then, like, well, what did they do to think that way? Oh, they did
mm,
voluntary hardship, but you ain't telling them to do voluntary hardship,
mm,
right?
mm,
Oh, they fasted. Oh, but you're not talking about fasting, right?
mm.
Or even if people are fasting, like in the West, and I've talked about this before, Joe Rogan, Huberman Lab, right? Dr. Berg, all people who, I mean, Rogan not so much anymore, but people that I generally respect, um, they talk about fasting as if it's new. And
Right.
it's like, only Dr. Berg has said the Muslims have been fasting for a long time, and it's directly, we believe, why cancer rates are so low in the Arabian Peninsula. That,
And what do we say about fasting?
man,
Fasting was for you and it was for those who came before you. Not even us. This is the
right?
old human practice.
Come on, man,
All of the prophets from the beginning came with fasting.
right? And so it's such a beautiful element um, of what Stoicism gives the Western minds, because how long have people in the Nation of Islam been talking about fasting, and the West be like, no. How long have Sunni Muslims, how long have Shia Muslims been fasting? And the West has been like, no. Rogan says it. Oh, what great things are here upon us. You know, uh,
Yeah.
and the good thing that I like about Dr. Berg is, one, he acknowledges the Islamic fast as one that's supremely healthy and long-standing, and that the data from Huberman Lab shows the value of it, right? But then, okay, cool, whatever gets you into fasting, fine. It's about that practice, right? I think this gap of philosophical quoting, I call those people quote boys. Quote boys don't always teach the practice,
Mm.
right? Quote boys don't always teach the practice. And so I
Mhm.
think that that's where the real pivot is in who are, like, there's an author you probably don't know. His name is Donald Robertson. He does some of the best books on stoicism. But that's because he's always talking about the practice, right? There's
Mm.
another book called oh man, how am I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, The Everyday Stoic by William Mulligan, right? So he'll break down these Stoic ideas,
So the one
and it'll
I have
always
no, no, I have a
be
different
the
one.
practice right after it, right? It'll be like, this is the idea. This is how you do it in the modern day, right? This is how you get disciplined to let go of your phone. This is how you know what I mean? I
Mm.
think these things are really crucial.
Mm.
Um, um, and to me, Ramadan is the ultimate voluntary hardship. And so, could you talk about, for those that don't know what Ramadan is, what is happening and how that ties into voluntary hardship as a Stoic concept?
Yeah. And I'm gonna maybe if you can bear with me on this one a little bit, and
Sure.
I'm gonna tie it into the Futua question that you
Please. Yeah, yeah,
raised
yeah.
earlier too. It's funny you asked this because actually yesterday my sermon was on the benefits of difficulty.
Okay. Oh,
And
remix it
and
and drop it now, Shake.
yeah,
Let's
and
go.
like I set the whole thing up, and then in the second half I said, and Ramadan is a great example of this, where we understand that there's some level of difficulty that comes with this, but the benefit that we get from it is far greater actually than immediate kind of perception of
Yeah.
difficulty that we have. Um, yeah, so Ramadan, and I wanted also about this whole the quote boys and the practice. I would take it like for us, I think you have this knowledge and you have this practice, and the practice is meant to take you to this kind of like spiritual reality. So we have the idea that you need to fast, right? And
Right.
that fasting was written upon you like it was written upon the people before you. Ramadan is a month, for those who don't know, where the Muslims are engaging in this fast from dawn until sunset. No food, no drink, no intimacy. And and we believe that this is a prophetic practice from the earliest of creation, human beings. And that we do this fast, and what God says about that when he says it is for you and it was for the people before you, he says so that you can attain God consciousness. You can
Mm,
attain like this heightened awareness. And so here you have a concept, and then you have the practice that you do. The concept is the fasting. The practice is we're doing it in the month of Ramadan. And the goal of it is to get to this spiritual situation internally that's elevated. And when we look at the practice of the Prophet himself, actually, it goes, peace be upon him, far beyond the month of Ramadan.
right.
Like
Right.
the Prophet was known to fast basically every Monday and Thursday, 3 days in the middle of the lunar month. Some months of the year he would fast almost the entire month in addition to Ramadan. Even when he wasn't fasting, they say that the food, like the Prophet in his own home, didn't have like huge amounts of food. He didn't
I
have
always read that.
an entire like animal in front of him at one time. He didn't have entire
Right.
loaves of bread at one time. So they were very um, disciplined in the way that they dealt with food, let's say, right? And the goal is to get beyond this physical, because what happens is if we're constantly caught in the physical, that's all that we can see. But when we limit the physical a little bit, we have this disciplining of it, this restraint allows us to open up some of the spiritual. And so I think this is also part of like the people who are quoting stuff. Okay, well, I want you to go beyond quoting it. I want you to practice it. But I don't just want you to practice it. I want you to practice it because there's something that you're supposed to be getting in your soul
From it.
from it that goes even beyond that practice, right? And this again ties into actually the concept about futuwah.
Yeah.
Because when we, in the Muslim tradition, yeah, futuwah, people probably don't know it, but I'll try to break it down a little bit. And you probably have heard it some from Medusa before, but futuwah comes from this word called feta. It's in the Quran, and it refers to like a young person who's upright and kind of energetic, and they're able to stand for what's good and what's right. They're exemplary. In the sense, they're the feta. The original feta, in many ways, was Ibrahim, Prophet
Mm,
Abraham.
mm,
That he was known to be this kind of like chivalrous youth. And so this becomes a concept that's developed in the Muslim tradition. This idea of like, how does someone become like that, male or female?
right.
It's not, sometimes when you talk about manliness or something, people think it's in contrast to women, but it's not really in contrast to women as much as it's in contrast to being a child.
Mm,
Like you could either
that's
be a
deep.
child or you could be a man. It's not
Right.
you could be
I
a man or
got
you
you.
can be a woman.
Right. Right. Right.
So women can also have this as well, like this elevated character, this exemplary being of how is it that we're supposed to be. So the Futuwa tradition is really trying to figure that out. In its essence, it's a spiritual thing. Like in its essence, the Futuwa tradition was something that was really adopted by like the people of Sufism, the Tasawwuf people that are really focused on the internal development of the person, the cultivation of the soul, and so on, so that people can really be Islam in a very true
Right.
way. And so part of that becomes they have these physical codes. So if you're going to do this thing, then okay, we're going to get your spirituality right. But in order to get your spirituality right, we have to get your physical right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to train in these disciplines. We're going to train in archery. We're going to train in horseback riding, which all of them, by the way, are very profound in terms of like archery is not just about shooting arrows.
I know.
Archery is about it's about discipline, it's about control, it's about, how do you
Presence.
engage presence, and horseback riding is the same.
Yeah.
Like when you ride a horse, it's like there's a very clear connection between you and that horse. The horse is feeling
Exactly.
all kinds of things from you. If you don't have your stuff in order internally, no matter how much you're faking it, the horse feels it right away,
And you will feel it too.
and you will feel it as a result, right? And then the wrestling is actually the same, right?
True.
Like you can know as many techniques as you can know, but if inside you're kind of like tight and stiff, you're tight and stiff. And
Yeah,
like
you're
your
vain.
opponent is going to be able to feel it, and you're gonna have the consequences of that. So all of these are practices that are meant to integrate between the physical and the spiritual.
No,
And so the
these.
Fatua tradition is putting it that way, and fasting is doing that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, like, and that's one of the things that for me helped me settle more um calmly into um looking deeper into the more Stoic practices because it aligned with so much of what I was already experiencing as an American Muslim and as a martial artist. Excuse me, I'm overcoming a sickness.
Yeah,
But
me too.
man, it's crazy going around everywhere. Um, but this has been a great thing for me to experience as a Muslim and what I call myself like an aspiring Stoic. Excuse me. And that's because I don't really think of myself as a Stoic. I think of like Stoic, like I think of being a Sufi. Like I'm not a Sufi. I have Sufi aspirations,
Hmm.
right?
That's why in Arabic they don't really use that word so much.
Yeah, can you talk
Sufi,
about that a little bit?
they don't use Sufi that much. Sufi they might use for someone who's like at the highest level.
Right.
Because in a sense it's a claim,
It's a
right?
it's a
If
it's
you
a
were to say
yeah.
if you were to say like I'm a Stoic, you're like, okay, well that means you're doing certain things. But if you're aspiring to be a Stoic, it's different. If you were to say you're a Sufi, that means you've gained some level of spirit, cleanliness.
You're all the way
But
up.
usually they would say someone is they do tasawwuf or they're a
Uh,
mutasawwif, meaning basically they're a practitioner of it. They're trying to do it.
yeah, they're
Same
trying to
thing
get
that you
there.
just said. Yeah.
you know. And so, over the years, when I first would come into Ramadan, as a white and a blue belt, there was always this idea that you would just scrap all day while you didn't eat and drink. Now, when I was
Mm.
young, you know what I'm saying, 28, 29, it was lit. But boy, as time went on, you would exhaust yourself and almost unintentionally break yourself trying to overdo it. I want to shout out all the Muslims from the Bay to the UK down to LA, right? Don't overdo it. Right? Because it can be done, right? And that like the highest expressions of your faith don't necessarily have to come on the mat while you're not eating and drinking. You can break yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not
Yeah.
the point of Ramadan, involuntary hardship, or grappling.
The ego is tricky. Part of the point of the involuntary, I'm sorry, voluntary,
Voluntary
what's the
hardship.
term?
Voluntary
Voluntary
hardship.
hardship. Voluntary hardship, I'm assuming, is that voluntary hardship aids the person in disciplining their ego,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So what's really tricky about the ego is that sometimes the ego feeds itself in what you thought you were doing to discipline it. So
So
you're going through this involuntary hardship of fasting and then training. The training is supposed to be that too, right? Training is not supposed to be feeding the ego. Training is supposed to be dealing with the ego at some level.
right.
So if you're like, okay, now I'm gonna do Ramadan and I'm gonna train and like, look at me, I'm so tough. I can do this. So all of it's ego in the end. So your Ramadan became ego and your training became ego.
Yep.
So what did you actually do? I mean, the
It's
whole
all
thing got
bad.
flipped upside down. Yeah. But this is what happens. It's very tricky. And this is again why living examples are so important.
Hmm.
Because when we're pulling at straws, like I think it should be this way. I think it should. One of the things I love, I keep telling people about the person who's like, I would say my spiritual mentor, my sheikh. I learn more from what he doesn't do than what he does, because
Oh,
it's like
say that again one time.
I, I learn more from what he doesn't do than what he does, because it's like, okay, I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to go extra right here. Not be, and because I know that this person is, I have no question as to the spiritual capacity of this person, you know.
Right.
And but we're pulling at straws because we're reading all these things. We're like, oh, that's how I do it. I'm going to do it this way. But what happens in the end is it's all feeding the ego. So sometimes, like, what it means is we have to, like, it has to be a lot more subtle. It has to be a lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. A
If you can
softness.
hide it, if you can hide it, that's great. But when you come, you're like, I'm just training
Yeah.
7 times a day.
Yeah. No.
Like,
And
okay.
so I realized that, right? And one of the things as my jujitsu evolved, right? Because there's your jujitsu technical evolution, but then there's your philosophical um and your
Yeah.
spiritual evolution, yeah. So then
Yeah.
as I got to be more purple brown, what I would do is like so Miyamoto Musashi, yeah, when he would have a duel coming up, it appears that he wouldn't do anything in the few days before. He would be making sculpture. He was a painter, so he would be like painting on silk dividers to make for people, and people are like, you got a sword fight in a few days. He's like, yeah, I know. And he's like over here, right? But then to the he would come to the duel, and it's like a 3 second thing. And that guy's down. It was like, yo, right? But I don't think anybody connected the idea, or few people connect the idea that the reason he was able to do that was because he let go of the sword. He let go of the eye of swordsmanship. He let go of war. He let go of combat so much that and he was so present in other spaces that when he came back, that presence was cultivated with the blade in hand, and now people ain't making it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
In the same
Hmm.
way, when I got to be purple or brown, and Lord knows I ain't no kind of Musashi, but what I'm saying is that I would let go of doing jujitsu. I would let go of books about grappling. I would let go of watching competition footage. I would let go of discussing jujitsu. And then when Ramadan was over, I'm hydrated, focused, leaner, right? And people are like, yo, it's like you never left.
Ah,
But it's
I see.
because I totally left.
Mm, mm,
Totally left.
Interesting.
And I
Interesting.
feel like a lot of times right now, because Futu is on the uptick here, all my brothers in the UK, you know what I'm saying? London, Leeds, Manchester, you know what I'm saying? Liverpool, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody in Bradford. But like letting go sometimes is the best way to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Because these things, they're in, I can't really put this into words, but anything that's at a high level of expression like this, a high level of fighting art, it's an expression in a sense. It's an art form. It's not just a science, it's an
Right.
art. And at that level of engaging with the world, things are kind of interconnected. Even when you let go, it actually helps you to integrate everything in a more sound way. And so when you come back, it functions differently.
Much
It's
different.
just I don't know how to explain it, but I wish I could put that into words, but I have some idea in my head that's hard to explain.
Nah, you doing great. You doing great.
Yeah.
Um, So, you know, one thing I wanted to say is, Ramadan intensifies the battle with the nafs, right? The lower self, the spirit, taming the spirit, right? On the mat, jujitsu also forces you into an honest confrontation with your ego, right? Which we kind of discussed, your fear, right? And your limitations, right? Do you see a deeper connection there? And how can a practitioner be more intentional about that overlap?
Mm. Yeah, again, so here's an example actually of how everything is kind of connected. Um, Obviously, when you go and you grapple, right? You're in front of an opponent. They put some sort of pressure, you put some sort of pressure. They give a little bit, you give a little bit, so on and so forth. There's this dance that's happening, and it's happening in the context of this grappling. But it's a lot of manipulation of pressure,
Hmm.
and speech is not actually so different. So when we control our speech, it's very similar.
I like
Like we
this.
have these ideas, we're wrestling with these ideas. We're trying to control them so that they can come out in a particular way. We're careful about how we're doing it. We understand that if we do it in a certain way, it can be beneficial. If we do it in a different way, it can be harmful, so on and so forth. The internal world that we have is also a lot of grappling, right? With this nefs, this
Mhm.
base self and ego, is to say, like, okay, I see that there's a little bit of ego that's creeping up here. And I think it's creeping up because of this and this and this. So how can I treat it? And if I don't treat it like this, then it's going to get bigger over there. But there's a wrestling that's happening internally. And I think that, again, like one of the ways to bring everything together is to recognize that essential spiritual element of it, which is to say, what is the baseline of all of it? The baseline of all of it in the day is this issue of the nefs. How
Right?
do I tame the nefs? How do I tame the ego? And how do I train the ego? And so many other areas of my life will be well integrated with each other if I'm coming at them from that angle.
That's
Mhm.
so real.
And so in that case, if you take that positioning, then Ramadan and training and any sort of martial art is going to be very similar. Right? Because Ramadan is not, people don't understand that Ramadan is not just about the food and the drink also. Again, like the whole issue of there's layers to this whole thing. Like
Yeah.
there's there's the food and drink is something, but why? Because I need to get a stronger control on myself. Okay,
Hmm.
if I need to get a stronger control on myself, then I have to. The big issue of Ramadan is not the food and drink. The big issue of Ramadan is like, how do I think about things? How do I analyze things? How do I
How do I
respond to
maintain a
things?
good temper? Right?
How do I maintain my emotional well-being and temper and all of these things? Why am I being affected by this and not being affected by that? It's the internal, it's the taking away those things allows the person to focus on the internal, right? That's the big wrestling of Ramadan in a sense. And so you see that, of course, in the world of grappling as well, or any sort of
Yeah.
training, any
Yeah.
sort of training. I always say that you can tell people who've done some physical training at a high level because they function in a certain way. They understand certain things that other people don't understand. I never, I've trained a little bit of jujitsu, as you know, but it's a very little bit. I never got anywhere in it. But I did play basketball like pretty seriously growing up, and there is something to it, to like being on a team, to training at a
Yeah.
certain level, to competing at a certain level, to winning and losing, to getting destroyed sometimes. Like there are things that you learn from all of that, right? And it's all part, but it all goes back in the end to like this refining of the self.
It's deep, man. It's deep. You actually you actually just answered the question I was about to ask. So we're gonna keep going. It's perfect. Um, there's also this concept in Islam um of sabr, right? Patience, right? And that's a big part of Stoic practice as well, right? Like
Mm,
being patient and in being not just enduring, but I think like with sabr and patience inside the Stoic practice is like um enduring a thing with grace, right?
mm,
Right? And not a lot of outward irritation in
yeah,
in the thing, right? So,
yeah.
patience or perseverance is one of the most frequently mentioned virtues in the Quran. Jiu-jitsu is arguably one of the greatest teachers of sabr in physical form, especially when you're underneath a more skilled opponent. How should a Muslim practitioner be thinking about sabr in a way on the mat as a form of worship?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, sabr again, as you mentioned, it's really like restraint essentially. Um, Patience, they use patience. Patience is very commonly used that way. Actually, interestingly, in one hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, refers to Ramadan as Shahru Sabr, the month of Sabr, the month of patience. And so, there's a huge emphasis on the development of Sabr in Ramadan. Um, when it comes to what you're asking about in particular, I mean, I think about Sabr a lot because I think again, the levels thing, there's a really simple form of Sabr, which is like I'm hungry, I'm gonna be patient. And then there's so many different layers of Sabr. Like for example, you might be in a conversation with someone and you feel like saying something and you realize, I don't know if I should really say that. And you restrain from doing it. That's a kind of sabr.
It
People
is.
don't usually people don't usually think about it that way, but it's a kind of sabr. To not seek things from people, to just be sincere in your relationship with them and care and have goodwill for them. That's a kind of sabr, you know. And there's always a conversation in our spiritual tradition about sabr and shukr.
Hmm.
Which one is the higher station
Hmm.
in a sense.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
often end up being very theoretical, but is it patience or is it gratitude? Which one should I really be exercising? Which one should I really be focusing on? And usually they'll talk about sabr in the context of you're dealing with something that's difficult and you have to have some patience over it. And
Yeah.
usually they'll talk about something that's gratitude as, obviously you saw some blessing and you're being grateful for it. But they'll say that the highest level actually is a shukr fi sabr, which
Mm.
means that there's the person who's patient over the difficulty. There's the person who's grateful for the blessing that they have. And then there's a person who's grateful for the difficulty that they
Oh, not a three at the buzzer. We're almost
have.
out. You just gonna hit a three like that? It's like ah, like that. Okay. He does play basketball, y'all. You see how he set that whole thing up? He just hit the three. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's
really powerful.
it's really deep. They would say that about Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah be pleased with him, the great Sheikh. They said that he had shukr in his sabr. That his not only it's the simple side of it is you have patience when difficulty, you have gratitude when you have blessing. But like, can you have gratitude when you're having a difficulty and accept that this is also good? That's another level.
Yo, yo. All right, all right. So I want
Yeah.
to talk for another hour, but we both know that's not gonna happen. Before we go, I do have a really interesting question for you, and it ties into something that while you're talking, I'm gonna go off camera and grab something. We'll talk about it. But when I came into jujitsu at the Half Gracie Academy in Mountain View, rough days. But one thing that was always cool about the Half Gracie Jiu Jitsu Academy, because these are very eclectic places, right? Like some people are hard right, some people are hard left, some people are atheists, some people are deeply religious, some people are somewhere in between, right? Some people are agnostic, whatever, right? Um, and it makes for a great uh space for a more authentic American melting pot because you have all these people trying to, you have someone who thinks totally different than you showing you how to choke better. You have someone from a totally different race than you showing you how to defend yourself, right? And like it really was groundbreaking for me in lots of different ways.
Mm.
Um, but no one ever gave me problems for fasting for you know what I mean like at all like no nothing, right? But I know that I'm lucky in general in the course of my life, and then other people they may be in areas where they may be the only Muslims around, and it may be a totally different political social environment. You know what I'm saying? I'm still in California,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Even if it's jujitsu, I'm still in Cali, right? So the question is many Muslims in jiu-jitsu are doing so in gyms where they may be the only Muslim in the room. So what advice would you give out to those about like carrying your deen, your faith with dignity in the space, but at the same time, like not preaching, but simply like being an example, right? And I'd be like, hey guys, we're all gonna pray to the east right now if you want to gather up, right? Like, can you talk about that for a minute? Like, because it's also probably can feel isolating for some, right? Like, I don't know
Mm.
if I want to go break fast right now because I don't want people to, right? Could you talk about that real quick? And I'm gonna grab something to show you.
Sure. I mean, when it comes to living and sharing Islam with people and expressing Islam with people who are not doing it, and my general approach is just to be who you are, and less is more. Not everything, and I believe that this is kind of something that Like I don't like pushing things on people all the time. So
Yeah,
be who you are. You are who you are. You know, you're fasting in the month of Ramadan. When it's time to break your fast, you're gonna go break your fast, even if it's just drinking water, but you're gonna break your fast. And if people ask questions, you answer their questions. If people if it comes up in conversation in a way that's like very normal, not that you're forcing, not that you're being a weirdo and like trying to force it all the time and every possibility chance you get and so on, but like it just comes up. It comes up, talk to people about it. There's no problem, you know.
right.
But I generally feel like less is more.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I am though. So, you know, people have different approaches on that.
Yeah, no, beautiful, beautiful. Now, one of the reasons, one of the, like, I'm curious if you know about this book. If you don't, it's no big deal. But like, I found this to be a great book, and I think it's an under discussed book. I don't even think that many people know about it, so it's not even like a test. But have you ever heard of the book called "People of the Book" by Zachary Karabell?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't
please,
think so.
anybody watching this, get this book.
Huh.
This book is incredible. I don't even remember how I came across it. Okay, listen. It's called People of the Book, The Forgotten History of Islam and the West by a guy named Zachary Karabell. Okay. Now the deal is that it's described as a fascinating and surprising history revealing the peaceful traditions that have existed between Islam and the West. And so basically, what he's showing you is all the times that Muslims, Christians, and Jews didn't try to maul each other, built different reciprocal communities between them in ancient times, dealing with scholarship, dealing with medicine.
Mm.
Oh, every American needs to read this book. I really believe this. And I think that what it does is if you, and it's written incredibly well, like incredibly well, and the
Mm.
scholarship is top tier. So this isn't
Mm.
like
Mm.
joking. He's not being a
Yeah.
hippie, right? He's showing you really beautiful things. And I say this because, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and I think that one of the things this book highlights is how much Muslims, Christians, and Jews often did kind of celebrate with each other or help one another celebrate whatever they're going through. It wasn't like Christmas, I oughta, right? It was like, hey, Merry Christmas, have a good, you know what I'm saying? And at the same
Yeah.
time, oh, it's Ramadan, y'all have an Eid. Oh yeah, have a plate, come kick it, right? Like it wasn't this, and that's the thing, is he
Yeah.
shows you how much of an illusion, like it's not that our different groups haven't had conflicts or you know what I mean, maybe haven't done one another wrong in some way or another at different times, but that's not the whole story, and that when you don't know these things you may mistrust people who have done right by you in ways you can't remember, right? But you
Absolutely.
can't remember by design because there
Yeah.
are people that
Absolutely.
want you to have this amnesia. So that's one. People of the
That
book,
sounds really great. That
it's
sounds really great.
powerful. After
Mashallah.
you read it, please hit me up because I would love your thoughts on it. The other, and I just was given this by an amazing human, Rumi's Secret, The Life of the Supreme
Mm.
Poet of Love. The author here is a guy named Brad Gooch. Let me tell you something. This author is incredible.
Mm.
Incredible. And it's a biography, and it starts when he's a little boy. So you get like this idea of his family, the things that his dad did, what they traveled, who his pops got along with and didn't get along with, and how that kind of impacted how Rumi saw life and travel and all this other stuff.
Amazing.
This isn't an, I'm only, I don't even think I'm a quarter way into it, but absolutely beautiful piece of work here.
Mm.
And then a book that I've actually,
I'm just checking it out.
by the time this person gets the book, they won't know that I got it for him. But it's called "Ego is the Enemy" by Ryan Holiday. Really good book. Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite Stoic authors, and he's somebody that really pushes the line of the practice. He's got a whole book series on every virtue. So he's got a whole book on wisdom, a whole book on courage. Courage is calling. Got a whole book, right? But this is one of his earlier books. Ego is the Enemy. Really good book. These are things that I think people could read. And obviously prophetic grappling, right? Like if you do Fatua, like you should have a copy of prophetic grappling by Nishar Sheikh.
Hmm.
All of
Hmm.
these are
And
on
you
Amazon
could
and stuff
couple
like
it with Imam Dawood's book on Futuwah.
that. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of like to give you a breakdown of the principles.
Yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I forget what it
That's
was. I
so
think it's
I
just
was
called Futua.
yeah, I believe you're right. I believe you're right.
Yeah.
And then Mikhail's book, the Tao of War. Have you seen it? I haven't read it, but I've seen it.
Mm-mm.
It's about Islamic philosophy and stuff like that. I haven't read it yet, but I've seen a lot of
Mm,
things about it. Um,
mm.
but what are there any books that you would recommend people get into during these times?
Man,
You've read more books than I can ever think of, so it's probably hard being a
I
scholar of
think that
things.
I wish I was a scholar. It'd be
Yeah.
nice if I was a scholar. But our tradition is so vast on spirituality, but I keep coming back to the same thing. Maybe it's a full circle point here, is that I would say to find people who are books.
Mm,
Like we would always be told the sheikh is your book.
yeah,
Like the sheikh is the book. The spiritual teacher, the spiritual master is the book.
yeah.
Don't worry about, you could read this and read this and read this and read this, or you can find a person who's a master and be in their company and you read that, you know.
That's really
Uh, so maybe I'll say that.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for your time. I know it's taken since pre-pandemic era for us to properly catch up on a podcast, but it was worth the wait. Okay? It
Alhamdulillah, it
was
was
worth
nice.
the
I
wait.
appreciate you.
I
Appreciate your
really
patience. Appreciate your perseverance, your voluntary difficulty of trying to trying to get me on with you. And Alhamdulillah, I'm happy to be here and honored to be here and appreciate your work. Appreciate your insights.
thank you.
MashaAllah, when I read the Bobby Bruce, is it Bobby Bruce in the
Yeah,
Bronx?
Bobby Bruce in the Bronx. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
when I read that one, I was like, man, this is cool. This is really interesting. And so been watching your work and appreciating your work. So for some time, alhamdulillah. So may Allah
Thank
reward
you
you.
so
May Allah
much.
increase you.
Thank you, thank you. And at the same time, like I've been saying I'm coming down forever and I haven't come down. So it's time for
Yeah,
me to make that trip down south, But yeah, I would love to circle back with you, get down there and kick it, maybe do a little grappling thing together for the youth or something. Or a chess thing, we can figure it. But always happy to get a chance to soak up your wisdom. And so listen, guys, yeah, check out these books we were talking about. Check out the scholars and the philosophers that we're mentioning, right? And try to be diligent, sincere, and consistent in your practice. Nobody's looking for perfection, you know what I'm saying? But like these are the times when we get to refine ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually on a higher level. And remember that with that should come like hopefully you'll be kinder when you come out of this. Hopefully you'll be more friendly with people when you come out of this.
mm,
Hopefully you'll be
mm,
more friendly to yourself, right? Be more friendly to yourself. I did this thing on justice a while ago. It was like a guided meditation, but the guided meditation wasn't on like justice as an outer thing. Like, are you being just to your own body?
mm.
Are you being just to your own heart? Right? That kind of stuff. So, have a great Ramadan, y'all, and I hope to have other people um on the podcast going forward that help inspire and educate like Sheikh Jamal and thank you guys for checking out Bishop Chronicles. All right, brother. Have a blessed one. I'll talk to you soon and
Appreciate you.
we'll do some beautiful things, man. Peace.
All right. Peace, peace. Wishing you a blessed Ramadan.